Zepeda, age 9, grade 4. I'm doing an interview with one of my neighbors. I will find out about the past of Newark. Okay, now questions. What was your life ever since in your childhood?
Well, I was born here in Newark, right in the Ironbound at St. James Hospital, which used to be just a few blocks from here, and it's since closed. And I grew up in the Ironbound, right here in the same neighborhood, and I actually went to Ann Street School.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, question number 2. What was your life since you were a young adult?
Well, I went to Ann Street School. I was very interested in my studies. I liked reading and I liked art a lot. Then I graduated and I went on to Eastside High School, right here around the block. And I actually studied secretarial, which back in that time had stenography, which was a way of writing that abbreviated words. It's not used anymore. And typing on a real old-fashioned typewriter. But then once I graduated, I was working in an office and I started to think about what I wanted to do for my career. And I was very interested in art and literature. So I went back to school to study exactly that, literature and art. I first became a painter. And as I was going on in my studies with painting, I was very interested in art history. And eventually I switched over and became an art historian, and I finished my bachelor's degree and my master's degree.
Oh, okay. Now, question number 3. Were there any different people living here before?
Well, my background, my parents, I was born here. My parents, both of them, my mother and my father, actually were also born right here in Newark, New Jersey, as well as all of my grandparents. Can you believe that? So it's not until my great-grandparents that came from Poland, from Wales, which is part of England, and Ireland. Yes, so I come from a long family of living in Newark. Back when my family was here, there was a huge population of Polish people as well as Irish people, but the Portuguese community that still is here today was already quite large in the Ironbound area. And when I went to school at Ann Street, I had a lot of my fellow students were Portuguese. Only a few of them had my same background, you know, sort of mixed European. And as the years have gone on, I've noticed that there's rich culture growing in this city. As you well know, there's many people from Mexico and Brazil, a lot of people from Latin America, as well as the Portuguese community that's still here. So it's an exciting environment because there's a lot of rich culture and diversity and delicious food that comes from all of that rich culture. So I've seen Newark grow and develop and change in really great ways in my life here.
Okay. Okay, now, were there any different presidents when you were younger?
Yes, I remember Jimmy Carter being a president. I think I was very young when he was president, and I think the thing I remember most as a small child was that he liked peanuts. You know, you hear these funny things about presidents when you're little that you tend to remember. And then, of course, Ronald Reagan, who was an actor. And I think he liked jelly beans, was the big joke about Ronald Reagan, and I was very young. But then when I came up to the age of becoming a voter, George Bush, the first, was running for president and won the election and was in office. And then, you know, I was past 18 years old, and I was paying much more attention to politics and what was going on in our country. And then President Bill Clinton was in office for 2 terms. So, and now, you know, ironically, after George Bush, his son, and then President Obama, who we have now, his wife, Hillary Clinton, is running for president. So, you know, from the age of 18, when I happily had the right to vote, I started paying much more attention about the elections and the presidents and who was, you know, willing to contribute what to our society and who I would vote for. So, that's been an interesting thing to watch, and to see the first female running for president is a really exciting thing for me as a woman. And I'm interested in women's rights and feminism, so it's an exciting time for me to see Hillary Clinton possibly to be the first woman president. So.
Oh, okay. Oh, now, question number 5. Were there when you were young, were there any companies that now are very famous today?
That were small when I was young? Well, actually, I have an interesting story about that question. If you can believe it, so I was born in 1974. When I was in Ann Street School, I was in one of the first classes to ever use computers in that school. And they were Macintosh computers, which was the original Apple computer, which is now our iPhones and, you know, such a huge company. But I think I was in about the 4th grade and someone donated a computer lab in Ann Street School, and there were classes that were doing very well in their grades that got picked to be the first, you know, students to test this new technology of computers. And I was lucky enough to be in one of those classes. So I remember we went into the classroom and the computer was pretty big. And the only thing that was on the screen was black and green. And we had these things that you called floppy disks. They were about this big and they actually flopped. You had to insert them into the drive, and the entire year we learned how to code so that you can get a ball, a green ball that was on that black screen with math and coding to bounce and move to this side of the screen. Can you believe that? The whole entire school year we learned that because programming computers was so new and it was brand new technology and information, and it was actually that hard to learn it back then. So that was the original Macintosh computer, and now here I am all these years later in 2016, and Apple is a huge company that is in all our lives with iPhones and iPods and iPads and Apple computers. So when I was young at your same school at N Street, I was on the first Macintosh computer learning. Isn't that incredible?
Yeah. Okay, now, question number 6. Were there any different buildings that were in the past from now?
Oh, that's a really good question. Yeah, I mean, I've definitely seen Newark develop and change so much. I'm trying to think if there's any buildings that are totally gone that aren't here. You know, I lived on Ferry Street East a little bit, and there's a huge set of factories down there that used to be the Ballantine Brewery. The factories are still there. I don't know if you know it, when you go way down on Ferry Street, there's these brick industrial buildings with a bridge, and there's a clock in the middle. You'll have to look for it next time, but that was a huge brewery and a factory that is no longer. And in recent years, I think they've subdivided it and it's a few different companies, but one that I remember also on Raymond Boulevard was Breyer's Ice Cream. Have you ever had Breyer's Ice Cream? Maybe you have and you don't know, but they used to make it in Newark and the whole factory was there. And they had a huge sign that was a leaf like you see on the ice cream containers. And it's no longer. I'm not sure where they moved to actually, but they were a huge industry that was in Newark and it's changed over. And I think that factory is now a storage facility on Raymond Boulevard. So I've definitely seen a lot of things change. Right up here on our block, did you ever notice that big brick building? It's from like 1896. It used to be a factory, and now I think on Saturdays they open the doors and it's like a store. They sell things for the home. But if you look at the building, it's really cool because it's in the middle of houses that look like our houses, newer, but it's an old brick building from like 1896. So I really like old architecture like that, and to see how it fits in with newer architecture, because you can kind of see how the city grows and moves forward. It's pretty interesting.
Okay. Okay. In the past, were there like different streets? Were the streets different? Or were they building new streets?
The neighborhood streets the layout of the streets are all the same actually. Isn't that funny in all these years? The streets are named the same thing. Sometimes they'll dedicate a street to someone who's done a lot in Newark, and they'll add a second name, but really the layout of the city is very, very much the same as when I grew up. You know, there's newer, they pave them and they keep up with them and things like that, but the streets are the same. Independence Park right here by us is the same as when I grew up. Eastside High School looks the same to me. I think Ann Street is pretty much the same, except they have those trailers on the outside of the school, which they didn't have when I was little. They actually had 2 playgrounds, and you know how they use your playground as a parking lot? They never did that when I was little. We played and ran around at lunchtime in that whole entire space. And when we had gym, we would have softball games out there, and we had the run of that entire space where they park the cars and you have a little playground now. We had that, and on the other side of the building, that was open as a playground also. And now I think you have trailers on that side of the building too. So small things like that are different, but really the layout of the city is very similar to when I grew up here.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.